One of the things that Rome has been obsessed with since 2015 is a document Pope Francis wrote called Laudato Si. Laudato Si is a papal encyclical on care for our common home, on the subject of what I have to call on YouTube, the thermometer problem. About creation, the environment, all that stuff. And to be clear, the church should have things to say about that, because this is one of those subjects that the secular world and secular politicians get so dreadfully wrong. Unfortunately, Pope Francis's document ended up endorsing their program. And every few years you get this anniversary of Laudato Si celebration that goes on. Francis did a follow-up to his own encyclical called Laudate Deum. He released it in 2023 or 2024, and it essentially was an updating of Laudato Si. We are now in the 10th anniversary of Laudato Si, and yes, there are celebrations going on for it, and no, that has not stopped under the new Pope. Leo XIV has positively cited Laudato Si numerous times, despite the problems with that document, and they are numerous. It's an unfortunate thing. You're not going to see most of the actions of the previous pontificate undone by the current one, even if he takes the church in a different direction, which we all pray he does. But here's a sign that that's not happening. We go to Vatican News, so you can't say this came from some fringe outlet. Headline: Fabric of St. Peter's unveils plan for zero-impact Basilica. The institution responsible for the conservation and maintenance of St. Peter's Basilica unveils an environmental sustainability plan inspired by the encyclical Laudato Si. Yeah. I wish I was joking about this. A World Heritage Site gets tens of thousands of visitors all the time. All year, every year, tens of thousands of visitors. Is going to be used as one of the highest profile pieces of propaganda for promotion of this secular error. And it's being done by the people who run St. Peter's Basilica on behalf of the Pope, because everybody in Rome works on behalf of the Pope. Whether he knows that this is what they're doing or not, I'll leave that up to you to decide. But this is just another pinching of incense to Caesar kind of thing. This entire problem, as they keep insisting that it is. And the church, for whatever reason, insists on endorsing it and being involved in it instead of correcting the errors of it at the very least, if not standing in opposition to what the secular world is trying to do with it. Here are the details of the article. Quote, reducing emissions, monitoring air quality, and cultivating care for our common home. These are the principles of the Fabric of St. Peter's, the institution responsible for the conservation and maintenance of St. Peter's Basilica, as placed at the foundation of its environmental sustainability project, an initiative that aims to make the world's largest church a model for cultural heritage sites worldwide. The plan, begun in 2022, involves not only the Basilica itself, but also the Canonica Palace, Casa Santa Marta, and the Mosaic Studio. The ongoing project, quote, aims to make St. Peter's Basilica, along with the community that gives its life and the millions of pilgrims and tourists who visit each year, a zero-impact home that welcomes everyone and encourages all to grow in humanity, said Cardinal Mauro Gambetti, president of the Fabric, at a press conference. Faced with a creation overwhelmed by crises and change, war, economic instability, artificial intelligence, Cardinal Gambetti noted that the environment may seem out of fashion, but in reality, the thermometer problem and sustainability have now become a stable part of the educational, political, and industrial agendas of Western countries. An ecological perspective, the Cardinal observed, brings with it structural issues tied to the development or decline of civilizations, since it is interwoven with economics, public health, social justice, and technology. In this context, the Holy See, guided by the principles of the encyclicals Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti, both of Pope Francis, and the apostolic exhortation Laudate Deum, emerges as a proactive force, the president of the Fabric explained, referring to numerous Vatican initiatives already underway. Among them, the Sustainable Mobility Program, Conversione Ecologia 2030, and the Borgo Laudato Si and Castel Gandolfo, envisioned as a laboratory of integral ecology and circular economy. And it goes on to talk about best practices, air quality, and how this will all be a model for intervention on other World Heritage sites. And all of that sounds pretty swell if you're into that subject. What was missing from that? You know what was missing? I'll tell you. It was Anything having to do with the salvation of souls, the spreading of the gospel, the freedom and exaltation of the church, anything the church normally is concerned with was all missing from that. Everything in the church should be oriented towards the salvation of souls. It is the first law of the church, after all. What does any of this nonsense have to do with saving even a single soul? They have not ever made a good case for how Laudato Si aids in the salvation of souls and why the church should spend as much time as it does on that subject. They've been remarkably bad about that, in fact. Pointed out, and you're accused of nitpicking. This is one of those subjects that should be left behind. It really should be. Or the teaching on it should be corrected, subtly or overtly, to keep it in line with Catholic truth, the truth of the gospel, instead of pinching incense to Caesar. Curious what you have to say about this. Elaine says, so is World Heritage Site bound and beholden to the UN? The UN does have regulations on them. Do they receive funding as long as they go along with the program? Are they an independent entity or any longer? I don't believe they get any funding from the UN, but I might be wrong on that. It's been a long time since I looked at the subject of World Heritage Sites. Joseph said with the $10 super chat, thank you, sir. Perhaps an old adage is apropos here for Pope Leo. Keep your friends close, enemies closer. Can Leo save the souls of the heterodox by leading by example, forcing them to react like Bishop Martin? We don't know, and we don't know if he actually forced Bishop Martin to react or not. It does sort of look that way simply because of the things he said, but we don't know for sure if he did. But we don't know. I'm curious what you say about this. So let me know in the comments, please. Like and subscribe if you have. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. Sharing this on social media helps as well. And I'm curious, again, what you think about this. So, and remember to please pray for the Pope, because there are indications that modernists are not happy with him and that they're going to try to stop him from implementing his program. There are some indications of that, and I'll talk about that in the coming days, because if he is doing what many observers think is, which is to be more like John Paul II and Benedict XVI and Paul VI, then the more extreme branch of modernists who control virtually every aspect of the Roman Curia are going to try to stop him. So we'll see. I'm curious what you think about this, so let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you haven't. That certainly helps. Sharing this on social media always helps. And as always, please pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.